for here, it was very appropriate that we were looking at Tudor clothing, Stuart clothing and Victorian, because those are the buildings that we've got furnished at the moment, and those are the ones that we're doing most domestic interpretation in. So I felt it was interesting and appropriate that we were focusing on that. The focus is female clothing at the moment, because as a necessity more than anything else, because we have mainly women volunteers working in sort of domestic buildings, although we have 3 male volunteers who are now very keen to wear clothing and do things like working with wood and working in the woods, which is what they do as part of their duties, but they're actually quite keen to maybe wear some clothing, which is very interesting for us as well, because it's very different. Male and female clothing is very different because they had very different duties and responsibilities.
Reversed inside, and then the codpiece will be fitted and stitched across here with 2 eyelet holes there and there, and that would be the fastenings for it.
That's for ease of access.
For ease of access, indeed.
Fantastic. So this is a Tudor working man's
clothes.
And so there wasn't the same feeling then that pink is for girls and...
Not at all. It's the natural dyes that were available to them.
Yeah, and it's madder, is that the thing that gives it?
Yes, madder than the linen. Yeah, and that, I mean, my only observation would be that they must have had really good, rough, tough skin in those days, because all these day in and day out, if you're rough, it could be a little bit. That's when men were men, perhaps.
I wanted to do a project that the volunteers were involved with from the start. I didn't want us to just get funding from the Friends of the Museum who have financed this project to then go and buy in somebody else's stuff that they'd made, so that we were, you know, just buying in clothes like we would now. I wanted
a very structural collar. It's got quite a few linings, and it actually sticks up quite high on the neck. But I've actually got it inside at the moment, so I can stitch around. But it's easier doing it on a dummy than it is trying to do it freehand, because it is so structural.
Yeah. So is this inside out?
This is inside out. I'm just going to stitch this collar on, and then I can get Kathy to try it on, so I know how long it's.
The process was as important as anything else, so I wanted us to be working with the materials and the techniques of the different periods to produce the clothing, so that it was a learning process as well. So you know, we have a lot of volunteers who may be fantastic seamstresses or knitters or patchwork quilt makers, but they're having to sort of learn different skills as well. You know, tailoring in the Tudor period is quite different from the Victorian. You know, you've got chemical dyes in the Victorian period, which were you know, completely revolutionised what people were wearing, what ordinary people could buy to wear, after, you know, having sort of natural dyeing and hand sewing for, you know, hundreds of years before that. So I wanted that to be part of the process.
The thread like that, and then obviously it will then slide through the material as you sew much better. So this, particularly the white one, this one is got a lot of slabs in it, and it breaks very easily. So rather than taking great long pieces, you're better to take a shorter piece, and then it's less likely to break on you. And again, you would wax up as well.
You know, the volunteers have been absolutely tremendous as well. I think that's been a real joy, is that we've had an awful lot of people who've come in and offered their time and their skills, and also been able to go, okay, right, I'm going to unlearn, you know, maybe this, how I do things in the modern way. I want to learn how to do it in this way and use these materials, and also learning why people might have been wearing the clothes that they're wearing.
So for the camera, I'm speaking to Jennifer, and it's her first day in her authentic underpinnings. How are you finding them?
Well, I think I have to feel much more Victorian. It has a bearing on how you walk. When you've got your rib cage somewhat restricted, you're not being 21st century woman, you're definitely being 1895 woman, which is probably always the good. But anyway, as I say, I shouldn't have my wristwatch on, but on the other hand, when you've got to, with school groups, keep more or less to a schedule, then a wristwatch is rather useful.
And you've been doing this interpretation for 10 years now. Do you still get surprised by new questions, or do people mostly ask the same thing?
Sometimes, yes. I mean, the children are marvellous because, particularly when I'm doing Tudor apothecary, and I do that over in Pendine, and some of them, I'm sure, genuinely think I come out of the woodwork in the morning and actually sleep in that, well, I was going to say awful bed. It's only because for about 9 months of the year the bedding feels really damp, and I think I've been a martyr to rheumatism.